Courtney Carpenter, warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Sacramento.
And Courtney, we're heading into our peak wildfire season, kind of the critical dryness that we'll see during the year. How are you handling operations there at the National Weather Service in Sacramento?
We are business as usual here. So during fire season, we are coordinating daily with fire agencies. We have morning coordination calls to kind of discuss the weather over the next week and any staffing concerns on their end so they can pre-position resources as necessary. We also, when there are wildfires in the area or really across the West Coast, we have something called an incident meteorologist who is specially trained to provide on-site support at a fire for those fire agencies who are working to contain the fire. So they provide detailed 24/7 support, and we have two of those in our office. So they are sent out during the summer as requested. And then we also provide spot forecasts. So those are detailed forecasts for any wildfire that pops up. Those get sent out before an incident meteorologist arrives on the scene.
You're also in coordination with other responding agencies. How does that work?
So we do that through a multitude of ways. We send out our fire weather watches and red flag warnings ahead of a critical fire weather day, so those fire agencies can staff up accordingly. When a fire pops up, then we're providing detailed weather forecasts so they can respond and prepare to fight the fire accordingly. And then, as we mentioned, we send meteorologists on site to those bigger fires to be right on the scene as the weather forecasts are changing.
Has anything changed in the last couple of months in terms of how you deploy or 24-hour staffing?
No, we are still have 24/7 support, especially for those fire agencies as we head through wildfire season. We still have 24/7 coverage for watches, warnings, and forecast information. So business as usual for us in that front.
Anything that the public would notice in terms of needing to take on something in terms of keeping track of their own fire situation?
No, our resources are the same. So weather.gov will get you a forecast or warning information at any time. There's also other sources like yourself, the broadcast media, that helps us get our message out during those critical fire weather days. So we just ask everyone to stay prepared, know your evacuation routes, and follow those orders from local officials as something arises.
And I think you answered this, but I'll just put it into a shorter question. In terms of spot forecasts and also the prescribed burns, what's the turnaround on that if something were to develop?
When we get those spot forecasts into our system, it alarms us, it notifies the forecasters that that's come in, and we turn those around ASAP. That's a high priority for us. The fire agencies need that as soon as possible to know what kind of conditions they're looking at on the fire. And so for wildfires, those are turned around immediately. And for prescribed forecasts, sometimes fire agencies put in those requests several days in advance so they can plan accordingly. So we handle those as they come in.
What kind of mutual aid happens with local agencies or local offices, I should say?
Yeah, so the Weather Service has a mutual aid system in place. We have 10 offices in California, so those offices can provide backup support. If we're really busy and we need extra bodies, we've got people out on fires and there's a lot going on, we can get support from those other offices. They're able to spin up our systems automatically, and there would be no gap in any service or coverage, and we'd have the extra support we need.
Um, how does your staff go into this time of year knowing this is kind of our severe weather season?
Yeah, actually for us, fire weather isn't quite as busy as an atmospheric river storm. There's a lot more going on during a big winter storm with flooding and winds and snow. So for us, fire season, it's really that forecast coordination ahead of an event. And then once the fire gets going and we have incident meteorologists on the scene, those agencies really take over the localized support. And then we would just be providing support to local emergency management, who is also responding to those fires.
It feels like with an atmospheric river, we have more lead time on a situation like that in terms of increasing staffing. But for fire situations, it seems like that's a little tighter of a timeline. Is that more difficult to kind of move around the pieces a little bit quicker?
I would say fire weather patterns, given our technology and our modeling, are becoming even more predictable. So we have a little bit longer lead time than we did before. And fires are challenging, right? Because it could be a really bad fire weather day, but nothing happens. A fire doesn't start, and then all remains calm. Um, but fires pop up, you can't predict that, and so sometimes that's a little hectic. Just getting the forecast out and getting those instant meteorologists out as they're requested.
And how do you respond as an agency or even an office that California doesn't have weather?
Yeah, I'm from the Midwest, as you are, I know. And so people were like, "You're going to be so bored when you move to California." And I would say, I wish I was bored more often. The summer is fire weather season, and that's certainly severe. And then we head right into the fall, typically with atmospheric rivers. And depending on the winter, that can be a pretty long haul, right? And so I would say there's a few periods, usually spring and early fall, that might be quiet, but otherwise it's a pretty year-round operation for us in terms of being busy.